The chill of the void had a name, desire. It was a soundless whisper promising warmth and belonging, a dangerous lure that had pulled entire star systems to ruin. Aira, captain of the Skyfire and last of the Eldrin Dragoons, knew that sound well. It spoke to her now, not from the cold expanse, but from the guarded, all-too-human command center of the Alliance fleet, where her duty demanded she ignore every aching, lonely impulse of her ancient soul. Aira, an elf of the ancient Eldrin race, stood on the bridge of her ship, the Skyfire. It was a vessel built from crystallized star metal and woven with arcane energy, a relic that moved through the modern galactic alliance like a ghost. Her two pet dragons, Xylos and Aris, were coiled around the primary command dais, their scales shifting from obsidian to deep amethyst as they absorbed the faint ambient energy of the warp core. Xylos, the larger of the two, lifted his head and let out a low, crooning sound that vibrated more through Aira's bones than her ears. Even her dragons felt the oppressive quiet of this sector, the infamous Gray Wastes, a nebula region where galactic law evaporated and pirate incursions were a daily threat. "Status report, Lieutenant Commander," Aira's voice, though soft, carried the weight of millennia. Her silver hair, braided with light-catching crystal beads, cascaded over her Alliance uniform, a stark contrast to the standard human-issue material. "Lieutenant Commander Brooke Riley," a young human officer whose dedication was matched only by her barely contained anxiety, straightened from her console. "Captain, the long-range sweep is complete. No new energy signatures detected, but we've got a weak, encrypted distress beacon repeating on an old civilian channel near the sector line." Aira glided to the viewport, her movements graceful even in the artificial gravity of the human-designed station. The view was a swirling canvas of bruised purples and blacks. The wastes lived up to their name. Origin and identification? Brooke adjusted her holographic display. "It's a deep space hauler, the Stardust Dream, registered to the Ganymede Trading Guild. The distress signal is intermittent, heavily corrupted, and appears to be playing a classical Terran symphony on repeat, overlaid with the standard emergency ping." Aira frowned. "A symphony? That is theatrical. Patch me through to Patrol Commander Kalen Var. I want to know why a civilian hauler is broadcasting from a restricted zone." Kalen Var. The mention of his name sent a familiar, unwelcome electric jolt through Aira's sternum. He was a human, a man who moved with a soldier's efficiency and a poet's inner fire. His dark eyes seemed to hold the warmth of a forgotten hearth. A dangerous light for a being as dedicated to solitude as Aira. Their professional relationship was one of mutual, unspoken respect and attention so thick it could be cut with a phase blade. A moment later, Commander Var's holographic image materialized on the bridge. He wore the standard issue armor of the Alliance Patrol, his face set in a grim expression. "Captain Aira, you've picked up the Stardust Dream signal. We have too. My reconnaissance drone confirms an anomaly. The hauler is adrift, non-responsive, and leaking trace amounts of radiation. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to worry me. My orders are to secure the ship and tow it back to the core." "And what do your desires tell you, Commander Var?" Aira asked, her gaze steady, letting the original title's keyword hang in the air between them. "Your gut. Does this feel like a routine salvage?" Var's jaw tightened. "My gut tells me it's a trap. The wastes are full of old traps. But I follow protocol. This vessel is our responsibility. I'm taking a boarding team. I'd like the Skyfire to maintain a silent, shielded perimeter, Captain. Your vessel's cloaking technology is superior to anything we have." Aira considered the situation. Standard procedure meant Var and his team would be walking into a high-risk scenario with limited backup. Her duty as an allied vessel was to provide assistance. Yet the energy signature of the Stardust Dream felt wrong to her Eldrin senses. a subtle cold hum beneath the noise of the distress signal. It was a feeling of ancient magic, something that predated human science. I will not leave the fate of a dozen Alliance patrolmen solely to your gut, Commander, Aira said, a decisive shift in her tone. I will deploy Xylos and Ares as scouting assets. Their ability to sense life forms and exotic energies is unmatched. If they find anything outside of standard human biology, pirates, ancient artifacts or something worse, I expect you to abort and extract immediately. Do we have an agreement? Var's face softened slightly, a flicker of that dangerous warmth touching his eyes. Agreement, Captain Aira, thank you. Var out. As the transmission ended, Aira turned to her dragons. Xylos and Ares uncoiled, their massive forms surprisingly quiet as they moved toward the hangar bay. Find the truth, my little stars, Aira whispered in the ancient Eldrin tongue. Aira watched the monitors as Var's boarding shuttle launched, a small lonely speck against the vastness of the nebula. She felt the heavy cloak of duty settle over her. She was here to protect the Alliance, to ensure the survival of humanity, the loud, messy, passionate race that had somehow carved a place for itself among the stars. But that protective urge warred with another, deeper sense, an uncanny feeling that Var was not just walking into a trap, but walking toward a destiny intertwined with her own. Hours later, the patrol shuttle docked successfully with the Stardust Dream, silence stretched on Aira's bridge, broken only by the soft clicks of Brooks' monitors. Then, the comm system flared to life, not with Var's tactical report, but with a sound that made Aira's ancient heart clench, a single, high-pitched, alien whisper, clear despite the encryption. Overriding all other signals, your patrol is complete, Commander Var. Stay with me. I have shown you the beginning of forever. We'd make beautiful children, human. The voice was liquid silver and lethal promise, and the duty that had anchored Aira for so long suddenly felt like a chain. The line cut out, leaving behind a silence far colder than the void. On the monitor, Var's ship-to-ship transponder went dark. Captain, Brooks' voice was barely a breath. Commander Var. He stopped responding. And the Stardust Dream ... It's just registered a massive non-standard energy spike. Aira closed her eyes, letting the Eldrin sense of the truth wash over her. Xylos and Ares had just reached the hull. She had to choose, adhere to the perimeter protocol, or plunge into the heart of an ancient danger to save the one human whose existence threatened to unravel her entire life. Launch the boarding pods. Lieutenant Commander, Aira commanded, already moving toward the hangar bay. I am going in. Prepare the Skyfire for an emergency warp jump. The minute my dragons are aboard, we leave this sector. Ready the launch tubes, now. The decision was made, driven by a primal, desperate surge that bypassed millennia of Eldrin reserve. Aira hurtled through the vacuum in her armored assault pod, the dark metal shell a poor cage for the fear and urgency gripping her. Desire was a weakness the Eldrin had mastered, or so Aira had thought. Yet, the thought of Kalen Var falling silent, captivated by that silver-tongued menace, brought a chilling clarity to her mind. This wasn't just about saving an Alliance officer. It was about confronting an enemy that felt unnervingly familiar, a seductive, mind-bending power that had hunted her people long ago. We'd make beautiful children. Human, the phrase echoed in Aira's mind, a perfect, chilling weapon designed to break the heart of a species that, despite its flaws, fiercely valued life, connection, and the future. Humans, with their short, vibrant lives, were obsessed with legacy, something the near-immortal Eldrin had nearly forgotten. Her pod slammed against the rusted docking ring of the Stardust Dream, the impact jarring. The ship was silent, cold, and smelled of ozone and something else, a heavy, floral scent that made Aira's skin crawl. It smelled of ancient, non-terrestrial magic, the kind woven by the Zelosians, a race of psychic manipulators who were thought to be extinct, scattered into dust by the Alliance 2 centuries ago. Clearly, not all had turned to dust. Aira, clad in lightweight but incredibly durable Eldrin armor, emerged with her phase sword humming faintly at her hip. Xylos and Aris, having finished their reconnaissance, materialized from the shadows of the corridor. They did not look at her. Instead, their luminous yellow eyes were fixed on the double doors of the cargo bay ahead. Their usually placid demeanor was replaced by a low, guttural growl that resonated with raw, protective power. She is in there, mistress. She sings the song of the ancients. Xylos's thought was a clear, ringing alarm in Aira's mind. Aira moved forward, her steps silent on the grated metal floor. The scene inside the cargo bay was both static and deeply disturbing. Commander Var's entire boarding team, 4 men and women, were frozen in place, standing utterly still, their plasma rifles hanging slack in their hands. They weren't dead. They were simply dormant, their minds perhaps trapped in a beautiful, manufactured dream dot, and in the center of the room, standing beside Kaelin Var, was the source of the danger. She was impossibly tall and slender, draped in a gown woven from what looked like pure twilight. Her skin was the color of polished jade, and her hair was a cascade of vibrant, living emerald moss. Her eyes, large and black as the void, were fixed solely on Kaelin Var, who stood rigidly beside her. He looked captivated, his gaze unfocused, but a single tear tracked a path down his cheek, a flicker of awareness beneath the psychic snare. "The Eldrin come to play," the woman said. Her voice the same melodic whisper Aira had heard over the coms. She spoke in perfect Alliance basic. "I am Lyra. I should have known the scent of the dragons would draw you, little duty-bound ghost. You, with your sad, long life. Do you not envy the human, Kaelin? He will die soon, but he will have a beautiful dream first. A dream of a life of family, of purpose. Things you stopped desiring millennia ago." Lyra gently placed a jade hand on Kellen's cheek. "He already knows the truth. The Alliance is temporary. Human power is fleeting. My race, the Xylosians, we offer eternity. Not for his body, but for his memory, for his spirit. He will be beautiful, like his children." Aira gripped the hilt of her sword, her own ancient blood humming with fury. "The Xylosians offer slavery and ruin, Lyra. Your eternity is a prison. And what does humanity offer you, Aira?" Lyra smiled, revealing teeth like tiny, polished pearls. "A short friendship? A war that will outlive you both? You defend these ephemeral creatures who value life simply because it ends. Why? Because you are lonely? You seek a connection with a race who barely understands your existence?" Aira looked past the taunt to Kaelin. His eye flickered again, a barely perceptible signal, a desperate plea for reality. He wasn't fully lost. Aira focused her immense psychic power, an Eldrin discipline she had not needed to use in centuries, and sent a single, simple image to Kellen's mind. Brooke Riley. The Xylosians were experts at psychic seduction, but they did not understand the deep, messy, and illogical attachments of humans. They targeted desire and duty, but they overlooked the simple, powerful love between friends, comrades, or subordinates. Brooke, his worried lieutenant commander on the Skyfire bridge. The image hit Kellen's mind like a physical blow. His jaw worked, and his eyes suddenly snapped into sharp focus. He tore his gaze away from Lyra, the move wrenching and painful, like breaking chains of glass. "No," Kaelin choked out, his voice raw. "My duty. To my crew. To Kara, to Brooke." Lyra shrieked, a sound that cracked the metal plating of the ship. She had never been rejected. The psychic energy she was channeling spiked, throwing Aira backward. Xylos and Ares roared, a twin blast of superheated plasma erupting from their throats toward the Xylosian. "Lyra, dissolved into a blinding sphere of emerald light. She could not be destroyed, only delayed. You have bought him a few moments, Eldrin. But I will have him. He carries the promise of an ultimate legacy. The light vanished. Kalen fell to his knees, clutching his head, his breathing shallow. The rest of the patrol team slowly began to stir, confusion etched on their faces. Commander Var, can you move? Aira rushed to him, grabbing his arm. He nodded once, grimacing. She knew. She knew my deepest wish. For a world where I didn't have to choose between duty and life. She offered to make it real. We are leaving. Now, Aira commanded, pulling him toward the open hatch dot as they moved. Kalen stopped, pointing a trembling hand toward the deck. There, a small silver locket lay discarded, a mundane piece of human jewelry that had fallen from Lyra's gown. What is this? Aira asked. Not hers, Kalen whispered, staring at the locket's face, which bore a faded, almost invisible human crest. That crest! It's the symbol of the first human contact fleet, the one that vanished 1,000 years ago. The fleet, they said, was destroyed by a rogue nebula. Aira knelt and snatched the locket. It was hot, vibrating with a suppressed, familiar Eldrin energy. This wasn't just a Xylosian trap. It was a clue to a far larger, terrifying mystery that connected Lyra's ancient race to the very beginning of the human journey into the stars. The Xylosians hadn't just returned. They had been here the whole time, cultivating something. Before they could escape, the lights on the Stardust Dream went dark again. The emergency lockdown sequence was initiated. The voice of Lyra, faint but resonating, echoed through the internal comms. The Alliance will not escape my legacy. Aira, they already carry the seed of my desire. Aira looked at Kalen, his face pale with exhaustion and realization. The emergency exit was now sealed. They were trapped aboard a ghost ship that was about to jump into a dangerous, unknown section of the gray wastes, and Lyra was back. The lockdown was absolute. The bulkhead sealed with a heavy final thunk, and the Stardust Dream thrummed with the unmistakable whine of a capacitor charging for an unscheduled warp jump. Aira looked at the silver locket in her hand, the faded human crest burning with a latent Eldrin energy signature, an ancient alliance or an ancient betrayal. The navigation system is hard-locked, Captain, Kalen said, leaning heavily against the bulkhead. He had managed to get his team moving, extracting them from the bay and placing them in a secure service tunnel. But the effect of Lyra's psychic attack still lingered. We're jumping blind. The Xylosians, they must have implanted a failsafe in the ship's warp drive years ago. They didn't just implant a failsafe, Kalen, Aira said, her mind working through the implications. This locket is not Xylosian. It is Eldrin. Specifically, it is a personal charm of the Eldrin sages, those who guided the first voyages of other races. The first contact fleet was not destroyed by a nebula. They were guided by my own people, working in secret to accelerate human technological expansion. The Xylosians must have been waiting. They used the Eldrin to get close to the core of humanity. A terrible realization washed over her. The Xylosians hadn't just been preying on human desire. They had studied human alliance, their deep capacity for trust and rapid collaboration. They knew that if one race could advance another, the alliance would be born, creating a massive, organized target rich with the very legacy Lyra sought. The humans were the perfect host, passionate, short-lived, and desperate to leave a mark. Aira realized that her duty wasn't just to save Kalen, but to expose the true, hidden danger to the entire alliance, a danger rooted in her own people's past. Xylos. Ares, Aira commanded in Eldrin. Find the source. Find the primary junction where the warp core feeds the navigation. The two dragons roared in response, their forms blurring as they phased through the sealed bulkheads, their heat-sensing vision cutting through the thick metal. Moments later, their combined energy signature flared on Aira's HUD, the engine core. We see the parasitic junction. The Xylosian's junction must be a specialized organic node fused to the core. Controlling the jump, Aira explained to Kalen. We can't disconnect it with weapons fire. We'd risk a core meltdown and vaporize this entire sector. We have to breach the core chamber, and I have to sever it by hand with the Eldrin phase sword. That's suicide, Kalen countered instantly. The radiation field at the core is lethal, even with your armor. I'll go. My suit has lead shielding. I have to protect my crew. That's my duty. Aira placed her hand firmly on his armored shoulder. Your life is too precious for that gamble. The Alliance needs its commanders. But more importantly, she looked at him. Her gaze intense, finally stripping away all reserve. My magic, my Eldrin life force, is the only thing that can cleanly sever the Xylosian junction without destabilizing the core. It is the legacy of the Eldrin to finish what we started. You will stand guard and keep us from being interrupted. Kalen nodded, his eyes reflecting her unwavering resolve. He finally understood the depth of the Eldrin commitment. Not to duty, but to the human spirit they had fostered and now fought to protect. Aira sealed her helmet and activated her sword, the energy blade humming with the power of a captured star. The Xylosian whispers were getting louder, Lyra's voice flooding the ship's walls, a psychic tidal wave trying to break Aira's focus. Don't save him, Aira. Don't save your desire. Let them all fall into my beautiful, eternal dream. Aira ignored the siren call. Focusing instead on the image Kalen had shared with her in the cargo bay, the fierce, unyielding loyalty of the human patrol team. The quiet determination of Brooke Riley. That was the force the Xylosians couldn't defeat. Not ancient magic, but the simple, enduring human capacity for connection. The final, reinforced bulkhead separating them from the core chamber, retracted under the combined power of the dragon's plasma blast and Aira's phase sword. A blinding green-tinged light spilled out, carrying with it a wave of intense heat and psychic pressure. Aira plunged into the core chamber. Lyra was there, a shadow woven into the organic junction, her eyes blazing with malice. You waste your life for them. Lyra shrieked, lunging. Aira did not hesitate. She sidestepped Lyra's attack, driving the Eldrin phase sword deep into the pulsing dark green junction. A scream ripped through the ship, not of metal, but of living pain. The silver locket in Aira's hand shattered, releasing a final burst of pure Eldrin light that cascaded into the core, stabilizing the energy flow. The organic junction shriveled, the light fading. Lyra's shadow dissipated, her final whisper a promise. The seed is planted ... The warp whine died instantly. The ship stabilized. The lockdown protocol shut down. They were no longer jumping blind. The Stardust Dream was inert, drifting safely on the edge of the Alliance perimeter. Aira staggered back out, collapsing into Kalen's arms. Her energy was drained, but the duty was done. Kalen looked at her, his face streaked with sweat and concern. We are safe. We made it, Aira nodded, leaning on him for a moment. She looked past him to the patrolman now emerging, shaken but alive, and back to the void outside, which was now simply the night sky. The Xylosians were a lingering threat, but the fragile, passionate, loyal race of humanity had endured, once again proving its extraordinary resilience. The Xylosian seed is not planted in their genetics. Kalen, Aira whispered, a sense of profound, emotional closure settling over her. It is planted in their fear, but their capacity for courage, for desire for a beautiful future, will always triumph over it. The Skyfire arrived moments later, its Alliance transponder blinking a welcome light in the darkness. As the first rescue shuttle docked, Kalen and Aira stood together, two different races with two different histories, united by a singular, dangerous, and beautiful future. The Eldrin's role was not over. It was just beginning, Subscribe for more epic sci-fi stories and thrilling HFY adventures. Let the stars guide your next legendary journey.